So the hype around the Kingsman franchise has seemingly died down a little since the release of the second film. But this is still one of the movie series I'm most interested in going forward. I loved the first, and even though I had a lot of problems with the Golden Circle, I still found it entertaining, and I just love these characters and this style of action. So yeah, I'm curious to see what comes next, especially because Matthew Vaughn is probably going to come back to direct, which is amazing news. So today, I'm going to talk about what I want to see in the third entry of the series, if it actually does end up happening. And be warned of two things. One, spoilers for both Kingsman films. And two, I know a lot of people actually did love the Golden Circle, and this video is going to have quite a bit of me just really criticizing it, so just brace yourself for that. Alright, with all that said, let's get into it. So at the end of the Golden Circle, Eggsy got married and became the Prince of Sweden. And it's kind of hinted at throughout that if he becomes a prince, his days at Kingsman are kind of over. But honestly, Eggsy's probably my favorite character in these films. Yes, Harry and Merlin are great, but I really enjoyed Eggsy's arc, and Taron Egerton is so charismatic. So bring him back. I wasn't a big fan of the princess story in the Golden Circle, mainly because I just thought it was stupid that Eggsy was still dating the girl whose appearance was mostly played off for a joke in the last film. And I still have problems with it, but recently I was watching a video by Cinema Wins on the film, and he brought up the point that that's also kind of playing on the spy film cliches, because James Bond goes from film to film sleeping with different women, while in this one, Eggsy fell in love with the woman he slept with on his first adventure. So yeah, I still have big problems with it besides that, but seeing it from that perspective, I did kind of enjoy it more. But regardless, even if you bring that story back, I would keep it more in the background this time around. And really, this world is already so stupid and ridiculous and unrealistic anyway, that a prince could totally still be a super spy. I mean, everyone in the world tried to kill each other at one point, and then later on, the president stacked paralyzed drug users up in giant cages. The rules don't really matter in this world. Also, how anyone is still alive in this world is beyond me. So yeah, I want to see more Eggsy in these Kingsman films. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Alright, I'm going to compare the ending of the first Kingsman film and that music festival scene in the second, while trying to keep this somewhat PG. The end joke of the first Kingsman film is there to be a little shocking to the audience, sure, but it's also playing off the tropes of spy films. Like I mentioned, James Bond is always sleeping with women, so just like all the other James Bond stuff that the movie makes fun of, it's just taking it to the extreme. With the music festival thing, really I felt like it was just there to be shocking and make the audience feel uncomfortable. I couldn't find any real reason for it. Yes, it pushes his girlfriend into becoming depressed and doing drugs and all that, but I'm sure there's another way story-wise you could have gotten there. With that scene, it could have been way funnier and more in line with making fun of the spy stuff if Eggsy had to stick the tracker up her nose or something. You have the classic spy scenario, the suave super spy has to sleep with the target to get info or track them or something, but here they say Eggsy has to insert it into a mucous membrane, and it could have played off that trope where he's about to have sex with her, and then he jams his finger up her nose and runs away. I don't know, I think that would have been funnier, fit the style more, and also wouldn't have felt like Matthew Vaughn was just trying to have something controversial in there for the sake of it. There's other shock value stuff that I could have done without, like the whole meat grinder eating a human being thing, but at least that kind of had a purpose. She's the villain and it's showing how insane she is. So if it has a purpose, absolutely go for it. The church scene was too much for some people, but it was an incredible action scene, and it showed how deadly and skilled a Kingsman could be, and how even a Kingsman could be affected by Valentine's weapon. Don't just have it there for the sake of having it there. Now, Harry coming back and being different in the second film, I get. It was a little cliche, but all the butterflies and that kind of stuff, it more or less makes sense with the rules the film sets up. But now with this third film, let's have him back to how he was in the first film, which he pretty much is by the end anyway. I mean this in two ways. One, in terms of action, which by the looks of that finale is already taken care of, but also in terms of his character and his relationship to Eggsy. The relationship and friendship they had in the first film, I loved and really believed. And one of my favorite scenes in the second film was on the plane when Harry is telling Eggsy about when he died.
Can you guess what the last thing was that flashed through my mind? It was absolutely nothing.
That's exactly what I want more of. This friendship, but also this kind of mutual respect and how they both learn stuff from each other. One of my least favorite moments in that film is when Harry is bizarrely mean to Eggsy. Like in the first, he's pissed when Eggsy fails the training and steals the car, but that's more understandable. Here, Eggsy is upset about having to leave Merlin, and Harry's all like,
"Do as you're told. Move it."
Yeah, that was also my reaction. I get that it's a tense situation, but one of Eggsy's friends and mentors is about to die, and to me at least, that moment felt really out of character for Harry, and really that relationship as a whole. He's stern, but not like this. So yeah, third film, if we're bringing Eggsy back too, I want not only more Harry and Eggsy team-up action, because it was so cool to see, but just them interacting as people and being friends, because I love that dynamic. Okay, I didn't put a specific wish for this one, because for me, you can go either way. You just have to pick one and stick with it. Either keep everyone dead, that means no bring back Roxy or Merlin or JB or whoever, or bring back everyone and just don't try to have stakes in regards to death in these films. I hated how Roxy went out, but if you bring her or Merlin back, no one is ever going to believe there's such a thing as real death in this universe. Which, is kind of fine, considering how ridiculous this world is already. But then don't have moments of self-sacrifice or shocking character deaths or any of that. Either you keep them dead, and when someone may potentially die, I might feel invested, or bring everyone back and just don't act like death matters here. It sounds kinda bad, but for this franchise specifically, I think it could work. When Eggsy and Harry are just going through like 50 henchmen, I'm not worried either is gonna die, and I'm still enjoying myself. In the first film, I wasn't concerned about Eggsy dying, I was more concerned about his mom, in the much more real-world setting, murdering his baby sister. So, you can still have stakes without having major characters in danger of dying. In fact, if they just go all out on anyone who dies can come back and they really commit to it, it could end up being so insane that it's kind of fun and adds to the craziness of this world. So hey, I'm saying pick one or the other. Now, this is more just for me to talk about the Statesman in general. Firstly, Channing Tatum isn't the next Daniel Day-Lewis, but he's a really funny, charismatic actor, and I felt like that wasn't utilized at all in the last film. So let's have more of him here. Apparently, he's going off to join Kingsman now. Not sure how I feel about that, as in my humble opinion, Channing Tatum cannot pull off a bowler hat. But hey, that could be fun, and a bit like Eggsy in the first film. But as far as the Statesman in general, I like what they set up here. I like Jeff Bridges, but he was only in it for about 5 minutes, and Halle Berry was pretty good, although again, didn't get a ton to do. But yeah, I didn't have a problem with the Statesman in the last film, so seeing the Kingsman go solo sometimes, and then also teaming up with the Statesman, sure, that could be fun. People speculated that there could be other spy agencies around the world, like Kingsman or Statesman, but for Japan, or Russia, or Australia, I don't know. That does sound like a fun concept, but let's not make this film too bloated and crowded. Still want to have a focused story that doesn't also have to deal with setting up several new characters or agencies. This is one of the biggest differences between the Secret Service and the Golden Circle for me. In the first film, the emotional core of the film that most people can gravitate towards, that the rest of this insanity was built around, was this kind of down-on-his-luck, low-life guy, training and turning into a gentleman super spy, and that keeps you invested. The way he handles his abusive stepfather in the middle of the film versus at the end of the film pretty perfectly shows that. But in the second, there wasn't really any of that. There was the princess and him missing Harry, but neither of those were really the main plot. Plus, with the princess, as we've discussed, I wasn't really emotionally invested in it. So with the third one, find some kind of thing for us to root for and to grab onto in terms of characters. A good example would be Eggsy and Harry's relationship. I know it's Kingsman and it's action and head explosions and all that, and some people might say the characters don't matter, but it seriously made a difference in my enjoyment of those films. So Matthew Vaughn is a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to this kind of thing. First Kingsman, it was about climate change, and Sam Jackson made some actually good, interesting points about it. He was just also insane and found the wrong solution. In Kingsman 2, there's a message about drugs either being good or bad, or good people can take drugs, but also bad people can take drugs, and other substances are legal that are as harmful as some drugs. It was less leaving it up for you to think about it, and more just kind of a mess of trying to have some kind of message. It also hurts that the villain's plan didn't make a ton of sense. Even though Sam Jackson was crazy, at least his plan made sense for the horrible things he wanted to do. Here a drug lord wants to be famous, so she poisons all of her own products, which will kill all of the drug users around the world if she doesn't get what she wants. But then, either all of your customers die and you have no business, or everyone remembers that one time that everyone who took drugs was almost horribly killed, and then no one wants to buy your drugs anymore. Also, a not very subtle Trump parody was just kind of stupid and predictable and not very clever. So that's why I said for the third one, less dumb political commentary. Political commentary, sure, you can have some, just if it's interesting and or makes sense. Otherwise, maybe tone it down a bit. Look, Kingsman has always had this, even in the film I love. And I'm not talking, when stuff looks ridiculous, and I'm saying you have to make it look more realistic. No, that's fine. Keep unrealistic explosions and blood splatters and all that. I just mean green screen and CGI people and a lot of green screen. Not much to say here, just with these budgets, devote a little more to the green screen. Okay, again, I realize a lot of this has just been me complaining about the Golden Circle, but I'm doing that because I think there's a great movie inside the Golden Circle somewhere, and hey, apparently a lot of people already see it. But there are just a few things that if you took out or did better, the film would be pretty awesome. And one of those is the villain. As you can probably tell, I really love Sam Jackson, but I really didn't like Julianne Moore. Besides her motivation, which we talked about, I just found her kind of annoying.
Armageddon.
I get that it's supposed to be terrible, but it was just so much less fun to watch than Valentine. So with this, let's get back to a larger-than-life villain that's also very entertaining. As far as who could carry that, I believe Taron Egerton mentioned The Rock. I'm not a big fan of that idea. I just don't feel like he fits in this world. I don't know why, but I feel like Karl Urban would be a good Kingsman villain. He's very charismatic and funny, and can also be badass if required. Really though, with the right writing, I think a lot of actors could work as Kingsman villains. Even The Rock. So hey, if you have an idea, leave it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to hear what people think. This may seem like the most obvious thing in the world, but just a few things I want to point out here. The first film had a lot of that quick cut, frames missing Matthew Vaughn action, and then one scene where it was made to look like one take with the camera spinning around as we follow the action. In the second film, sure there was some more of that traditional action, but a lot more was now that camera spinning church scene type thing. But personally, I love both. It's super high energy and fun to watch, and while, yeah, it can be a little jarring at first, you settle into it, and it's pretty great. So yeah, whether it's the camera spinning type stuff, or the more traditionally shot stuff, I'm on board with just more of it. That's one thing I loved almost equally about both these films. I also want to mention, while having some fight scenes set to pop music can be a lot of fun, I love that Henry Jackman Kingsman music, and I even like the music he did for the Statesman. So yeah, have your Freebird and your Give It Up and your Prince and all that, but also still have some with that score, because it is so awesome. So those were my thoughts on making a third Kingsman film. What are your wishes for this? Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, check out my Instagram and Twitter at BHL_Hudson, check out this podcast about movies and TV and whatnot I do every other Friday with a friend of mine, it's called The Poorly Planned Podcast, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.